r/AskReddit. What secret are you hiding from your family? I met my biological father and he's a lot like me. I've been forbidden from ever meeting the man since I was little. I don't get forced to work holidays. I volunteer to work them to get out of family dinners. That when my in-laws passed they left us millions, enough to retire and travel the world. Last time I talked to my mother more than a year ago she made fun of my wife's white trash parents. Duck M. How much I earn a month? I love my family, but they love my money and I really don't earn that much to begin with. Not my family, friends. When I was 13 my best friend and I were at his sister's condo. We had to babysit his niece who was 5. We went to the complex pool and did normal kid stuff. The niece had water wings on and we were doing general pool grab ass stuff like jumping in, trying to flip, etc. The girl at some point had slipped out of her water wings. I looked over and saw an image that will be with me until I die. 2 yellow water wings floating on the water and the girl 2 to 3 feet down, motionless, arms and legs hanging effortless, blonde hair spread out. My friend just screamed and froze. I had jumped in the pool to swim to her, but don't remember deciding to do it. I was just moving. I came up under her and pushed her up. I had no thought, plan, or clue, just did. I pushed her out of the water and the force of my hand on her stomach pushed water out of her lungs. I got her to the side and my friend pulled her out. She coughed and started crying. My friend was afraid he'd get in trouble, so we never spoke of it. The girl was too young and didn't say or call. Now she's in her early 40s with 2 kids. Nobody knows it happened. My parents think I graduated college. Every time I try to tell them the truth, they tell me how proud they are of me. I feel guilty, so I just play along. I've been passing out a lot lately at the sight of any blood, even a scratch. My family says I'm getting sensitive, that I'm turning into a wuss. When the truth is last year before my boyfriend and I broke up, he tried to kill himself in my presence. There was so much blood. I never told them. I dated a girl, found out she was legitimately a psychopath, and had been determined to be a psychopath by a psychologist. She ducked my head up really bad and left me suicidal for several months. I was close to suicide, but I decided there were things I wanted to do before I die, and one of them was buy a sailboat and go on a long sailing trip. So I decided I would do that first, and if I still wanted to kill myself afterwards, I could do it then. I bought the boat in another state and sailed it to my home state over several hundred miles. And I don't want to kill myself anymore. A year ago, we got a new, massive wood dining table, which cost around €3,000. On the first day of ownership, I knocked over a glass of wine. The table was intended to get a blanket, but this was before there was a blanket on it. In panic, I cleaned it with a cotton cloth. Turns out, there was some sand or something on the cloth, left nasty scratches on the table. I covered it up with a blanket immediately. No one saw it. A few days later I ordered a rubber cover to put it under the tablecloth. Told my parents this would protect the table if someone knocks a glass of wine. They didn't notice because the rubber cover never gets removed, only the tablecloth. That when my mother-in-law passes she is leaving my wife nearly $1 million in gold and silver, and that we have a safe with half the valuables in it. Not that my family, brothers, mother, father, etc. are the ifs or anything. I just don't want them to suddenly start hanging around more and acting different. We grew up very poor, and they might not know how to handle it. I don't want my wife resenting them thinking they will be trying to get some. She likes them fine now. I don't see any need to change that. How much I actually hate them for how shitty they treated my mom and I when she was dying from cancer. I was the one who took care of her while they berated me and were rude as hell to my mom when she made my nephew and I executors of her will instead of them. They slandered me up and down and yelled at my mom for allowing me to make decisions for her. I had power of attorney. It was so bad that she had me help her make a video to tell them to stop being assholes to her and had me post it on Facebook. They did absolutely nothing to help her while she was dying. It was me, my nephew, Barely. And mom's best friend who took care of her. They put mom through so much more than what she was already going through. I don't know if I'll ever be able to face them without wanting to throat punch them. That I talked my mom out of a suicide attempt. I volunteer at a suicide hotline. I often take calls from people on the brink of jumping or pulling the trigger. Everyone who calls us are anonymous to us on the caller display. I worked late one evening and got a call transferred to me from a lesser experienced responder because the person on the phone was very non-responsive to questions and apparently said they had a gun in their hands. When I picked up the phone and asked what their name was, I immediately recognized my mom's voice when she said her name. Funnily enough, she mentioned that I sounded familiar, like her son. I asked if that was a problem to her, because then I could hand her over to my colleague. She told me no, at least I feel like I'm confessing to a person I love. Then she went on about her failed adulthood, a husband she didn't love anymore, rapes by her now deceased father, etc. It was tough just sitting there and receive the burdens of a lifetime dumped onto you by your own mother. We talked for about 2 hours and she put away her gun. I heard it releasing the mag and hung up. I called my dad right after asking him where mom was. She had apparently just walked in the door when I called. Knowing their house, she must have been in the shed, dad's man cave. I don't know if she knew it was me or not, but she hasn't mentioned anything, and I'm not going to. I grew up thinking I was part of the X-Men and would train in the backyard/swimming pool. My dad thought I was drowning one day because I held my breath underwater for so long, so he jumped in to save me. I was in like 7th grade. I never told my dad holding my breath for as long as I could was part of my mutant training. I never told them I thought I was part of the X-Men because I didn't want the government to get involved. The wrong brother died 2 years ago. My younger brother was sweet, caring and patient. My older brother is a sociopath who used to beat me simply for the pleasure of exerting power over someone. He has ducked up his body through an addiction to prescription painkillers, but my parents will never see it. Our father once walked in on him stomping on me with military boots he got just for the purpose, and asked why I had provoked him. I was 6 and my brother was a teenager. When I was 14, my friend and I were drinking at my house when my parents weren't there. I lived in a small town and there wasn't much to do. Not that I'm defending 14-year-olds drinking, I'm just giving context. My sister, 4 years my elder, had a 1997 Honda Civic in the garage. My friend and I thought it would be a good idea to stealthily open up the garage door, push it down the road, hop in, turn it on, and go for a little joyride on the country roads. It was a rainy day, so the roads were still slick, and I got the great idea to pull the e-brake and do a bit of a slide. I slide directly into a ditch. The front bumper mounts brake, and the hubcap is slightly bent into the rubber of the wheel. We take it back home and begin to drunkenly try to fix it with zip ties and crowbars. It was a shoddy job, but it held. About a week later, my sister gets into a low-speed car accident on that exact side of the bumper. She still doesn't know, but I bet the mechanic working on her car knew something was up. This was 13 years ago. My family thinks I proposed to my wife at a fancy dinner. In reality, we were at a music festival coming down off MDMA at 6 AM. The sun was coming up. It was beautiful and just the perfect moment. I saw and had time to avoid the car that ran the red light, but I figured a few days in the hospital would be better than going to my shit job. Edit. The story is, I was crossing an intersection during rush hour. Dead stop traffic to my left and a car to my right. Didn't want to wait for the long cycle, so just ran the red. She hit me going maybe 10 miles per hour. I was bruised and sore on my hip and knee, but otherwise alright. I don't think she'll be running reds in the future. Right, so my boyfriend is a pretty good cook, and over the years there isn't really anything that I've been able to cook better than him. I try He decided last spring that he really wanted to make all these different kinds of cake, and they were all gorgeous apart from the red velvet one, which he just couldn't seem to master. It was too soft and sunk a bit. I wanted to give it a try as well, so I bought all the ingredients and found a new recipe, but my cake was still just as bad. I was pretty annoyed that I wasn't able to make it properly, as before I met him, I was really good at making cakes. So I kinda went out and bought a pre-made Betty Crocker red velvet cake mix and made the most delicious cake ever from it, and may have lied and said I made it from scratch. To this day I haven't told him, and every time I say I'm going to make it, I have to time it, so he is out at work and take the Betty Crocker packaging to a bin far away from the house, so he won't be suspicious. I'm so ashamed, but the feeling of triumphant cake making couldn't be any better. Worst part was his son asked me for the recipe a few weeks ago so he could try it in his cooking class at school for the end of the year, and I had to make something up about how it was a secret recipe and it's the only thing I could cook better than his dad, when in reality it's all a damn packet mix. Shame, shame, shame. After my mom and dad got divorced, I was 21 at the time. I had to use all of my life savings to pay for the house that they were fighting over. My mom knows I was paying for it, but she doesn't know how much money I had to use, and we've never talked about it. I lost about $12,000. Also that I was depressed at the time for about a year or so, because my mom was depressed, and I wasn't in contact with my dad anymore. I'm now. We're even closer now. The money thing, and I almost lost my job at the time. I had nobody to talk to. All my siblings were busy with their families. My friends were moving on to other things. Luckily one person helped me through it all. Someone I consider to be almost a lost brother to me now. Someone that happened to be a stranger on the internet that I met on an anime forum. He talked to me pretty much every day, and it wouldn't just be about nerdy stuff. We would talk about everything that was happening to me in my life and his life. We would talk about pretty much everything. It helped me through the tough times so much, and I don't know if he'll ever understand how much it meant to me. Since then, one of my biggest ideals in life is communication, and I now see each random internet user as an individual person, rather than just a username. Donated sperm to multiple lesbian couples through private arrangement in the home, not through clinics. I have 3 kids and 3 more on the way. That I smoke pot all day every day, and they frequently use me as an example of what you can be like if you aren't a stoner. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.